Hello everyone, my name is Kalise Espiritu, and this is my PSA on New York City's human trafficking crisis, the focus of racial minority and immigrant women. So in order to look at the problem, we must identify what is human trafficking, and human trafficking is a crime that involves recruiting, transporting, and forcing individuals to do labor or sexual exploitation unwillingly. It is a modern-day slavery, and New York City is a primary source known for its massive crimes. In 2024, from the National Human Trafficking Hotline, the statistics show that there have been 1,191 reports of suspected trafficking, and there were also 337 reports from victims and survivors. You can also see the number of cases here, where there were 570 to 1,437 victims were involved in. This problem is very invisible, where victims are hidden from hotels, salons, clubs, etc. And as you can see from the Human Trafficking Hotline, they have created a separate chart for venues for sex trafficking and venues for labor trafficking. A special quote that I found from New York State Attorney General is that human trafficking is a serious crime that harms many New Yorkers. It involves making someone engage in commercial, sexual acts, or other types of labor against their will. Traffickers take advantage of others and profit from their exploitation. So is human trafficking a local, state, or national issue? Human trafficking is a national issue due to how it affects all regions. It has harmed individuals in their rights, community, and safety, creating many bad results for social, economic, and psychological trauma as a whole. New York is a quick access point for human trafficking due to its population size, tourism, poverty, crime, and immigrant communities. Let's look at a video about Laura Mullen. She is a survivor of human trafficking who speaks out to fight to end this devastating issue.
Laura Mullen, a survivor of human trafficking, greets city officials in the Bronx at a recent event, highlighting the plight of trafficking victims. She was trafficked in 2014.
I was at a local 7-Eleven. I was really down and out. I was addicted to drugs. And at the time, this person came up and basically just offered me a shower. And it was that little thing of saying, hey, you look like you're hungry. Do you need to take a shower? That led me to his home, eventually locked into his basement, while I had to struggle to escape.
Laura was offered food and a chance to freshen up. But then she was offered drugs and coerced into sex. Her ordeal lasted 5 years, during which she was too afraid to report her trafficker.
I was afraid of turning to the cops because I was worried about being criminalized for what I was doing, because we know that it's not legal and doing drugs is not legal.
In 2019, Mullen was arrested on drug charges. A non-profit, ECLI Vibes, helped her start a new life after her release. She became an advocate against human trafficking. Advocates like Mullen work to combat trafficking in New York City, noting an increase in cases with the influx of undocumented migrants whom traffickers exploit. Advocates say victims often have no job, no family or support network, don't know the laws, and don't speak the language.
New immigrants are hitting the mark on many of these factors, are acutely vulnerable. And for many of them, their benefits are running out. They're being kicked out of shelters, which they were originally given when they arrived. They don't have any ability to make a living in the economy here locally.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams says the city is working to combat the problem but needs federal funding and changes in labor law.
We have to stop ignoring the problem. We see what's happening because of the migrants and asylum seekers' inability to work. Many of these young ladies are turning to terrible means to support their family. The way we stop human trafficking is, number one, go after those who are carrying out the act, and number two, give people the dignity to work. If we allow people to work, they won't have to do illegal things.
Advocates caution that not all victims of trafficking are migrants.
Actually, in New York, the vast majority of sex trafficking victims are U.S.-born women and girls. So, and they have histories of adverse childhood experiences, homelessness, foster care, residencies, dysfunctional families. They were sex trafficked, or they are sex trafficked as children.
Trafficking survivor Laura Mullen adds that everyone has a role to play.
Just please keep your eyes and ears open and just know that it's out there. And if you see something, say something.
Anshuman Apte, VOA News, New York City.
As you can see, this video is very powerful, and Laura Mullen escaped getting trafficked for 5 years. She's one of the few that got away as well, and she has made a huge difference, which I am grateful for her and many others that she has helped. Another special quote that I found from Stephanie Hepburn and Rita J. Simon is, "What makes identifying each nation's unique anti-trafficking issues and obstacles critical is not only to recognize potential victims, but also to point to common practices or even national objectives that may be in direct conflict with the specific nation's own anti-trafficking efforts." So who is affected by this issue? This issue can be affected by anyone, but the highest victims in New York City are women of color and immigrant women. Why does it focus on racial minority women? This could be due to systematic racism, where traffickers are targeting Black, Latina, Asian, etc. And it can also be from poverty, lack of housing, being racially profiled or criminalized, and not being taken seriously. And there have been a number of cases where there are lack of protection or seeking help. Why it focuses on immigrant women? This can be due to undocumentation, language barriers, debt bondage, vulnerability in false jobs, promises for a better life, and isolation from family and supportive resources. Another quote from New York State Attorney General has stated that these targets include people from underprivileged and underserved communities, including immigrants, people who do not speak English, people who lack housing, and people with developmental disabilities and children. So who is addressing this issue? Here are the groups that I have found that are fighting against human trafficking in New York City. Safe Horizon, or safehorizon.org, is an anti-trafficking program that helps victims and survivors of labor and sex trafficking with legal and social services, regardless of their age, gender, language, or immigration status. There is also the NYPD Human Trafficking Task Force. citymeetings.nyc has stated that our mission is to conduct trauma-informed, victim-centered, and offender-focused investigations. And there's also the Polaris Project. Polarisproject.org has also stated that, named after the North Star, an historical symbol of freedom, Polaris is leading a survivor-centered justice and equity-driven movement to end human trafficking. Laws and court cases fighting against human trafficking. The key laws that I have found are Trafficking Victims Protection Act, or TVPA for short, and this allows victims to sue their traffickers, fund survivors for protection and care services as public benefits, healthcare, rehab, etc. And it's also the avoidance of deportation and expects and looks into trafficking while having a task force. There is also Frederick Douglass Trafficking Prevention and Protection Reauthorization Act, where it supports teaching students about human trafficking prevention, has opportunities of education, employment, housing, strives as an international issue, and focuses on eliminating forced labor. So a court case, we all know the United States versus Combs. We all know the recent charges that was built upon Sean John Combs, aka P. Diddy. He was charged with 2 counts of the 5 charges against him, which was count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution, and count 5, transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, even though he wasn't charged for sex trafficking, he is the spotlight of how traffickers use manipulative tactics to control their victims. And we can see the many actions that he has put into women, which is abuse, verbal abuse, and other sad crimes that he has done. giving the justice system to hold him and other traffickers accountable. So what is the key problem? The key problem with this issue is how traffickers can easily prey on susceptible women, especially women of color, immigrant women, and young girls. It is also hard to detect if a person is in trouble. According to Joseph Chamby's book, Human Trafficking, A Serious Challenge to Humanity, trafficked persons frequently find themselves in fearful, dangerous, or illegal circumstances, making them reluctant to report crimes, cooperate with law enforcement authorities in the identification and prosecution of traffickers, and to seek out needed medical care and social services. We can see the images here as examples, as in airports, hotels or motels, or even spas and salons. So from this quote, this shows that victims remain silent because they are afraid and trapped in dangerous situations, making them feel like they will never seek the help that they need or feel that they will be shamed by their actions, allowing traffickers to continue without having any consequences against them. So what needs to be done? Human trafficking is not just about putting traffickers behind bars. It's also about how to prevent it and saving the victims. There are many ways that you can help end human trafficking, but some of the essentials are identifying the situation, spot the warning signs of lack of control, physical or verbal abuse, strict movement or gestures, or known as the American Sign Language of SOS. This topic needs to be educated in schools and it has to be discussed. I know many people are very uncomfortable talking to this, but it is very important that it needs to be out there. There are also ways of supporting campaigns and funding programs for education and law enforcement. If you want to look at other ways, you can look at 20 ways you can help fight human trafficking. So in conclusion, human trafficking is a crucial topic that needs to be addressed. New York is a perfect example that these cases are happening globally. When people and communities are well informed, it empowers them to protect and seek justice. Sadly, these crimes can happen to anyone, but women of color, migrant women, and young girls are being preyed upon. And this highlights the actions of discrimination, systematic oppression, disparity, and inhumane treatment. I have chosen this topic because if we continue to feel uncomfortable and afraid of saying something, who knows how many more victims will be able to see another light of day. And as again from Laura Mullen's video, if you see something, say something. This concludes my presentation.